Hey there. Thanks for joining me today on the Alive and Well podcast. My name is Chris. I'm a physical therapist and I'm passionate about treating a person holistically from the inside out. This podcast is designed for you and I to think a little deeper and be more self-aware of our body, mind, and soul so that you and I can have long-lasting transformation and truly say that we are alive and well. My guest today is Pastor Richard Piatt, pastor of Fellowship Baptist Church since 1994. He is a very well-accomplished man with 2 master's degrees and a doctorate degree. He was a coach for springboard diving at Lakeland Christian High School and has some accolades from that. But what I find the most interesting is the fact is he is an exotic animal lover.
But I always liked the exotic animals. Even though I was raised inner city, I liked exotic animals. So even as I had my first pet monkey, for example, when I was in 8th grade. That's not even legal today. But I had my first monkey when I was in 8th grade.
This is pre-Michael Jackson, like,
oh yeah,
monkey
yeah,
like you
yeah,
were that guy.
It was interesting. So the funny thing is, I never owned baseball, basketball, football, but I had 8 pet monkeys.
Growing up with animals is not that strange. We all have cats, dogs, and hamsters. But a monkey? Of course, we got to get into the psychology of why monkeys.
But I was not a disobedient or radical guy, and I learned that with older parents, she was always afraid I was going to go off into bad things back in the 50s and 60s. And so I had a large collection of animals and everything, and she kept me supplied, and my sister did too. So I grew up around a lot of pets, which then caught my heart, and I became a great animal lover, and then wanted to be a veterinarian. But I always liked the exotic animals. Even though I was raised inner city, I liked exotic animals. So even as I had my first pet monkey, for example, when I was in 8th grade. That's not even legal today. But I had my first monkey when I was in 8th grade.
This is pre-Michael Jackson, like.
Oh yeah. This is
guy.
It was interesting. Well, I think because I never got into sports because I was inner city. My parents said a ball in the city breaks windows. So the funny thing is, I never owned baseball, basketball, football. But I had 8 pet monkeys, flying squirrels and crows and all of that. Well, that passion continued through high school. I went to a vocational high school, studied medical arts and human anatomy, physiology. I dearly loved. But then I wanted to be a zoo veterinarian. Went to Wright State University. Graduated with a bachelor's degree in biological science education, with a minor in chemistry and math, and was all ready to go to OSU Veterinary College, and the Lord called me into the ministry. And I guess I just want to put it in there that when there was a life change like that, I've never looked back, and I don't miss it. But then since I finished off my doctorate in 2005, I went back into monkeys, and I ended up with over 30 monkeys, and even giving lectures at zoo meetings.
Growing up, did you feel outcast or displaced or maybe just not fit in because of the sports side of things? And how did the monkeys maybe feel?
Excellent question. Nobody's ever asked me. I sometimes will throw that in, but no, I think that's a good thing. Since so much of our society is geared in sports, and I wasn't. Hopefully I won't alienate those that are listening, but I've never actually watched a full football game. I don't necessarily find football exciting. Okay. For me, I work with baboons right now, but I also have a Class 1 crocodilian permit. And for me, I got my excitement watching Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. And when everybody in the room is saying, that guy is nuts, I would say, I got to learn to do that. And so I've had the opportunity to breed a South American caiman, a jacare, and I've been able to produce that right here in Lakeland, Florida. And that's my adrenaline rush. Every child does want to be accepted. Some people bow to peer pressure. I'm not one that really was ever tempted by peer pressure into sexual areas or into drugs. That to me, I will determine what I'm going to do. But we all want acceptance. And I was always the unique guy. I'm the one, they're talking about scores, and I can tell you where you can buy monkeys and, exotic animals. And I knew all those stats, which then puts you in a unique thing, a unique category. And I could talk and people would then listen. My job through high school and through college was at a pet shop. I was hired to clean cages. And one time somebody asked me about tropical fish, and my boss came out and he said, "You're not hired to talk to customers." And then the person said, "Well, wait a minute, he knows what he's talking about." So my boss took me off the side and I told him what kind of fish were there and how they would breed and what they eat and where they're from. And he said, "Okay, you immediately have a promotion." And so I got my recognition not in sports. I have adult trophies and triathlons and running Gasparilla and so forth. But it was never to beat somebody else. It was always for a PR, personal record.
Pastor Piatt is into monkeys. Now that sounds strange, but it's unique as well. So many of our kids these days in America are pushed into sports. And if you're not starting sports at a young age, then you're not doing something right. Travel ball, travel baseball, whatever it may be. You just got to get your kids into sports younger. They got to play for years upon years. And what we've seen in healthcare is injuries go up. So my question to Pastor Piatt was, how do we get our kids interested in other things, not just sports?
That's an excellent question. I have 3 children. None of them are animal lovers like I am. And I think that it's very key. And what we did with our 3 children, which are all successful, we followed a formula like this. And it really started when they were 4. And that is, as long as what you want is not immoral or illegal, I will support you. Now, if it's immoral, illegal, you get into drugs, I'll stick you in jail, or something like that. But if it's not immoral or illegal, we will support you 100%. My oldest daughter, at 4, she had a passion for the piano. And at 4 years old, most 4-year-olds were pounding on a piano. Well, then we enrolled her in Ohio in the Suzuki program, and she started at 4 piano lessons. Well, as that grew, and you got to also, as a parent, be willing to pay. But then we paid for her piano lessons starting at 4 all the way through high school. She ended up getting a scholarship and went to Florida Southern, got a bachelor's degree in piano performance, and she is right now the pianist of our church. Wonderful story. But we just encouraged her in what she wanted. But my second daughter we did the piano thing. She learned music, but then she wanted to do something different. She wanted to be more unique, not just like her sister. And I think that's a part of the thing too, is when parents push into sports or something, well, your brother is so good at soccer. And the second kid comes along and says, "But I hate running my guts out." Well, if you're going to play soccer, you got to run your guts out. My son, he loves to fish. And so as he was growing up, fishing poles, lures. I'm not big into fishing, but I spent far more time in a boat than I ever wanted to. But I did it because that's what he wanted. But again, if it's not immoral or illegal, I will help support you. I'm willing to. We bought a boat together, for example, and the stories our family can tell about buying a boat together, taking it to Everglades City, and then it was stolen. Yeah. Those are family bonding things. But we let them choose what they wanted to do.
We're going to transition now and talk to Pastor Piatt about some of his health issues. And my question to him was, there's a lot of times where if you're some religious leader, pastor, maybe somebody who just is seen as more spiritual, maybe we dismiss them as having mental anguishes and mental distress. But I want to know what it was like. All those verses he read about, all the books he's probably come across, all the wisdom. Did he have mental anguish during his health issues?
A I'll take two steps back to get to where it was. I've said I ran 5Ks and 10Ks and 15Ks, and then I got into triathlonism. Well, that was because I was concerned about health. And I even looked at body types, and I thought, I don't want a body type like a football player. I want a body type like a triathlete. They're healthy in all those ways. And I challenged myself. Well, because of the individuality that I enjoy, the uniqueness, one of my life mantras is never let anyone call you normal. I want to be the Baptist preacher that can swim and win in competition in the senior games and those kinds of things. But that takes a toll on your body. Well, then my knees started going, and I had to get a knee replacement. Well, then eventually the other knee goes. Well, on my second knee replacement, I thought everything went well. Love the surgeon, and so forth. That's how we met together even on the therapy part. But then home health care, because now it's getting in the upper 60s, and healthcare comes to the house and takes my pulse, and he looks at me and says these words: I don't want to alarm you, but you must go to the urgent care or the emergency room right away. And I'm looking at him saying, what's wrong with you? I just had a knee replacement. Except for that pain in the knee and so on, I feel fine. Yeah. And he just put a bit of more urgency on it, and it just seemed odd. So I said, okay, then go to urgent care, because I wasn't going to go to the ER. Go to urgent care, go in, and told them what it was, that he told me to come. They took, and heart rate was extremely high, and still no symptoms. They go in, ended up taking a CT scan with contrast, and the doctor comes out and says, well, that wasn't what we were expecting. She says, you have thrown PEs, or pulmonary embolisms, to both lungs. Wow. And I'm looking at her going, say what? She said, are you sure you don't have shortness of breath? No. Are you sure that you have not had chest pains? Nope. But yet a clot had gone through the heart, exploded, and went to both lungs. Wow. And so they said, at this particular point, and this begins the saga of all of this is a big God thing. God was behind all the circumstances because, and I believe in a sovereign God who works all things after the counsel of his own will, I was out of control. Out of my control. I didn't control the circumstances. That's what I mean to say. And I said, okay. And she just then said, we have already called for an ambulance. I've never been in an ambulance in my life. Yeah. I've been healthy. I'm still having none. And she says, we've already called for them and they're on their way. Wow. And so ambulance takes me to the ER. ER goes in. They start me right after a knee replacement surgery on a blood thinner, heparin with a bolus. And they say, we're going to watch your knee that you don't bleed out. But this is real. I'm getting the point, I'm having nothing hurt except a little bit from the knee, and I'm out of control. And they're saying that I'm almost ready to die. And I am amazed. And then once they get the blood thinners in, they said, all we can do is watch. They put me back in the hospital. Everything worked out fine, and I started a blood thinner every day, twice a day, and everything. Well, then in the midst of that, they wanted to check and see that there weren't other clots in my leg. And they said, you have just a little bit of plaque in a certain area of your heart. When all this is over, you may want to go have a calcium score. So we waited. That was all in August. By October, November, it was November, I go have a calcium score, and it comes back so that they have it rated at 400. The severe begins. Well, I had a rating of 1192. Wow. I am like way over, at least in something. So then they said, well, no, you must go and have your heart cathed. And I'm thinking, oh no, that's exactly what I've wanted to avoid my whole thing. May I just say to anyone who listens or hears me on this, right now, my view of a heart cath is it's not a big deal. After what follows, This is no big. It's like going to the dentist and getting your teeth cleaned. It really is not that big of a deal. But they did that, and the doctor went in. He came out, pulled it out, and said, "This man is not allowed to get up out of his bed. He is going to have surgery." And I'm going, "Say what?" I still have no symptoms. Now, what was scary is then what had happened right before all of this and before the calcium score, they also did a genetic test, and I carry the gene for the widowmaker that doesn't always, the clogging or the plaque buildup of the widowmaker, which doesn't always have symptoms, and it is utterly deadly. Wow. And but I had just climbed to the highest peak in the Smoky Mountains at Klingman's Dome 3 weeks before this, and the doctor shook his head and said, "You should be dead. I guess God doesn't want you dead yet." But then what happened is, if you look at this, then how those circumstances came, I was on blood thinners because of what had happened in the knee surgery. So again, God had all the controls. All of this, it's a God thing. So anyways, I'm in the hospital waiting. The doctor, the vascular surgeon comes in and says, "I've cleared my schedule. You're in a very tender place. And tomorrow morning, first thing, you're going to be on my table, and it's heart bypass surgery. We don't know if it's 1, 2, we don't know what, but we're going to open up your chest." And I'm thinking, my entire life, I never wanted this. But it was out of my control. I said, "Do I have options?" He says, "Yes, this or die. And you'll be one of those kind of men that'll be walking along and he'll drop dead." And I've had several in ministry. Wow. One, even my worship leader, who did that at 60 years old. Yeah. So then comes the heart surgery. We go through that. But because of my health and because I did not postpone, I was still no symptoms. But I did not postpone when suggestions came. Go to the doctor, see what they have to say. I trusted the medical profession, and I'm alive today. Blood pressure today was 123/73, the heart rate 57. I'm 71 years old. Unbelievable. Yeah. But for sake of your podcast, and this is one reason why I think this is so important, it was a difficult 24 hours to wrap my brain around. Are they sure? Yeah. I don't, they even referred to, they would come in and say, "Well, when was your cardiac event?" And I said, "Are you talking about the open heart surgery?" And they said, "No, your heart attack." I said, "I've never had one." Shortness of breath. I've never had that. But it was because of the uniqueness of the circumstance. But when you're in that kind of situation and then you're told you're going to have your rib cage cut open, you'll be wired shut, it was tough, and I'm a pastor. I live by faith, but I'm also happily married, have 3 kids and 9 grandkids. And to wrap it around, wow, this may be how God calls me home. And but the support team, of family, of church, of pastors, and then in the midst between those two events, when I met you through cardio rehab. But it's a God thing, right. And that's why faith, trust, doing what you know is right, be healthy as much as you can. But genetics plays into this. Your mental health. The doctor told me, he said, "You're going into this so much." I ended up giving pastoral counseling to 2 women who were on my floor having open heart surgery after me. And they saw me walking the hallways. They saw me walk before and after. And they all said, "You're such an encouragement," because you need that support system, sometimes even by strangers.
Yeah. In those moments, did you begin to question your faith and trust in God?
No. It was made stronger. In all of my years of ministry and life, to me, the definition of fear is always fear of the unknown. I never wanted, I've never gone through. What is it like to go in? What is it like after you wake up and you're tied to the bed and you're still fully intubated? What is that like to have your chest opened up and closed, and when you wake up for a couple days, you got tubes coming out? And what is it going to be like when they pull it out? Yeah. And there's fear, but it was fear of what is that like? I sometimes wonder, what is it going to be like? I'm not afraid to die, but what is it going to be like to die? And I think that every Christian has a little bit of a fear, like, do angels bring us? Will it be painful? What are the circumstances of my death? So I'm not afraid what happens to me when I die, but there may be some fear on what is it going to like? Will it be painful? And there was that, but in my circumstance, it just simply was, God, I trust you.
Thanks for joining me today in part 1 with Pastor Richard Piatt. His story on his heart condition is one that I hope resonates with a lot of people. My hope is that through listening to this story, you will take action towards your health. It's the new year and a perfect time to be proactive and preventative. If you would like to connect with Pastor Piatt, send him an email found in the show notes. Check back in later this week for part 2. Hopefully with this episode, we are one step closer to saying we are alive and well. Hey guys, thanks for listening today. It is my goal with this podcast to support our communities near and far. And today we want to support Anna's Helping Hands. It's a charity that helps build wells and provide groceries for villages in India. In the show notes, you'll see a link to a GoFundMe page. Anna's Helping Hands can help build wells for roughly $300 and feed up to 50 families for about $200. Our goal is to raise $500 to bring water and food so that from your generosity and willingness to give, someone will be able to say today, I am alive and well. I want to give a shout out to anonymous donor J.A. for donating some money to help people in India get clean drinking water. We were able to build a well for some people in a village. So thank you, J.A., for your gift so that people today can say they are alive and well.